Welcome to Potter's Bluff. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, you're all welcome here at this lovely fishing coastal town of Potter's Bluff. Be careful, all ye who enter here, because you will not leave. No. We're reviewing a movie from 1981, a movie that made a cameo guest appearance on the DPP prescribed video list of video nasties, and yet it was a film that had a proper cinematic release in the UK. I know, I saw it. It had some great stars in it. It had A-list production values for a low budget movie, but it had a bit of brutality, a bit of violence in it, in a mainstream horror movie. And suddenly it appeared on that list. So everyone was after it. Wow, I remember the kids, the playground, oh my God, Dead and Buried. For that is the name of it, Dead and Buried. Oh, we've got to get this. Oh, it's got this in it, it's got that in it. Wow, and then you watched it and you go, well, it ain't that nasty, is it? Well, I love it. I loved it as a kid. And I was lucky enough to see it theatrically as well, because as regular viewers know, I lived in the Phoenix cinema. And when this came out, I had seen the posters for it. From the creators of Alien, a new earthbound horror. You know, terror comes to earth. And a face cracking out of a weird groundscape, a surreal, plateau with a full moon and clouds behind it. Very enigmatic. What the hell was this going to be about? And it starred the great James Farentino. James Farentino, I've always loved him. He's a massive TV star, of course, but a slew of movies. But for me, it's this and The Final Countdown with Kirk Douglas, where the USS Nimitz goes back in time to thwart or possibly thwart the attack on Pearl Harbor. And it's great. It's time travel, it's action, adventure, and it's pure jingoistic military American might. But it's a great movie, and he's superb in it. And I've always liked him. He has this sort of, a heartwarming quality to him. He could be a gruff action hero as he is in this, but there's something homely about him. You do warm to his performances, to his characters, and he's great. And here he plays Sheriff Dan Gillis in the town of Potter's Bluff, which is meant to be in Maine somewhere, up on the East Coast, somewhere, Nantucket, Maine, Rhode Island, and all that, Providence, all that kind of stuff. But it's not. It's actually filmed in Mendocino, California, and in LA as well. And it's a great sort of Twilight Zone sort of story. So what is the story of Dead and Buried? Town of Potter's Bluff, little rural fishing shanty town. Anyone who happens to arrive there, transients, hitchhikers, photographers, will meet violent deaths. Really, really horribly, sadistically violent, nasty deaths. And yet they may suddenly appear to be walking the streets again. How can that be? Okay, right. It's a tale of witchcraft, potential voodooism, medical breakthrough, the living dead, shocks, revelations aplenty, small town horror, and a guy that you could root for, as in Sheriff Dan Gillis, James Farentino. You're on his side, but things will unravel around him continually with shock after shock, revelation after revelation, to the final shock conclusion. It's brilliant. I love it. It doesn't really make one lick of sense, but it's a great scenario and a great synopsis and a great premise for, moody atmospheric horror and small town rural stuff, which of course we all know and love. You never venture into the small towns because, oh God, they've got secrets. They've got things that they don't want you to know about, and you shouldn't be there. So, now you've been here, you can't leave. Anyway, so how does it start off then? A young photographer just happens upon the beach of Potter's Bluff, played by Chris Allport, and he just starts taking snapshots of the beach, the fishing nets, the buoys, in the sea, birds pecking away at worms in the sand. And then with his professional photography camera thing, like, he will find someone's naked but painted toes and nice tight denims and like travel up. Oh my God, it's the lovely young blonde Lisa Blount. Lisa Blount, of course, from Prince of Darkness for John Carpenter, and Cut and Run with Michael Berryman, and Richard Lynch. Awesome. Are you a photographer? Well, yeah, I am. Are you a professional photographer? Because that's a fancy camera you got there. Well, I guess I am, yeah. Sexy blonde, he's there, secluded beach. Interesting. And she's putting the moves on him and he's getting very interested. I like to note here that he's wearing a big long sleeved shirt in the tartan of McLeod. A tartan which I wear very often, which you've seen me wear. I often sport it. I'm not wearing it today. I happen to be wearing the Douglas tartan. But he's wearing the McLeod from famously Highlander. Conor McLeod of the Clan McLeod, he's wearing that tartan as his shirt. Just a little thing that I like to spot. So suddenly she opens her top and the boobage comes out and he's like, oh, okay, right. He moves in a bit closer, forgets about the lens, who needs that? He's got something else which is telescopic, and they begin to get it on. But suddenly, out of nowhere, become a world of nasty, vicious villagers and fishermen with hooks and poles and staves and things. They beat him relentlessly, savagely, beat him, break his legs, smash him over there with a spade, and then bloodied and bruised, they throw him against a pole and wrap him up in fishing nets, and then descend upon him whilst taking pictures. And Lisa, played by Lisa Blount, see, they used her real name to play her character's name. Hardly very clever there, I know, but they're all taking pictures of him, flash bulbs, and Polaroids, and little snap cameras. No camera phones back in those days, and he's like, oh, and they pour oil all over him, petrol all over him, and then this woman comes up, strikes a match. He's like, oh, no, and his face is all contorted by the fishing lines and nets, and it's horrible. And they burn him alive. And he's like, It's a genuinely horrific sequence, and it definitely blew everybody away at the time. It's not, when you watch it now, it's not massively graphic or explicit. It's very brief. It's a long setup, the seduction scene and taking the pictures of the beach and all that, and then suddenly it all goes horribly pear-shaped. And these people come out of nowhere, and it's a massive throng of them. Where they come from? Jesus. And they're leering and happy with his destruction and his decimation. The film takes on a huge aspect of Herschel Gordon Lewis, H.G. Lewis, aka the Godfather of Gore. We all think that George Romero is the Godfather of Gore, which he is. But Herschel Gordon Lewis, back in the 60s, did a lot of drive-in, exploitation, Nasties, Blood Feast, and especially 2000 Maniacs, where he had rural yokels committing atrocities upon visiting happenstance, visitors, and committing horrible crimes, dismembering them and laughing as they're doing so. And this film, with depictions of the crowd around the victim really brings that back to the fore, and it's grotesquely unpleasant. So he bends, and then we meet our sheriff, because they find his body in his upturned Volkswagen on the beach, on fire. The police and the fire brigade turn up, put the flames out, and a young Robert Englund, a young Freddy Krueger is there. In only, I think, his second movie, his second actual part in a theatrical production. He'd been in TV stuff beforehand, and this is before Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. But he's there, and he's like a mechanic or a salvage sort of guy. And he's like, as James Farentino, the sheriff, arrives, he's like, well, have you seen his face? Yeah, it's not too pleasant. Well, do you think I can have his wheels? I can have the vehicle afterwards? Where's the mortician? Where's the coroner? Dobbs, the mortician, played by Jack Albertson. Jack Albertson in his final role ever. He was in Miracle on 34th or 36th Street? I've never seen any version of that. But he's in that, the original one apparently. And he's also he's grandpa in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, he's the grandpa in that, and he plays the aging, eccentric mortician Dobbs, William Dobbs, who's into big band and on his Victorola, the old gramophone player, and even his vehicle he's playing on it, whatever, it must be an 8-track he's playing there. He's got big band stuff playing, and he loves it all. And he arrives late in the day. Like the sheriff's like, Dobbs, I told you to get here. Shh, Daniel, shh. And the music finishes. Okay, get me out of the car and let's see what we've got here. And they go to the upturned Volkswagen. The flames have been put out, and there's the flambéed face of our victim hanging upside down. Charred, barbecued, horrendous. Special effects by Stan Winston, the great Stan Winston. Yes, he does the effects in this movie. And cause of death, well, I think it should be obvious. And he, with a gloved hand, he reaches in, and the upturned head suddenly just goes, "Ah!" with a huge, horrible, raucous scream of agony. Cinematically, everyone was off their seats. It's a great jump scare. It's wonderful. So this guy ends up being wrapped up, swathed in bandages. He's survived, but he ain't gonna last. Even the doctors say, look, he's fucked, basically.
I will make you beautiful again.
We're leaping ahead of ourselves here. I am playing Joe Renzetti's score, or rather the remnants of the bootleg I had of Joe Renzetti's score, which is brilliant. I'll talk more about this, but it's got a couple of quotes on it, so if they interrupt me, don't worry. This guy's swathed in bandages. He's at the hospital, and well, what the hell happened? Who is he? Do we know who this guy is? Our sheriff, he's the only copper in town, and like Brody in Amity for Jaws, very similar to this, small town copper, coastal resort, suddenly deaths are happening, and he can't trust anybody. It's very similar. There's a lot of films which kind of influence this story, and this film also influences another movie very, very much big time. Very much big time. That was really, really wonderfully spoken there, wasn't it? What really great grammatical speech I'm coming out with here. But it's true. He has a little old lady working the telex machine, and she's working on the phone and the radio, the walkie-talkies, and she's using radio speak, and he's putting up with it all the time. But James Farentino, this is a town where nothing happens. It's Sleepyville, and suddenly there's a guy he's been roasted alive. But this doesn't seem right. This wasn't an accident. Something's definitely. My suspicions are he wasn't burned here in the car. It was elsewhere, and he's been placed in this vehicle. So stuff begins to happen. A fisherman is caught late at night, wandering around drunk in, the docks. All the boats are there, and he's talking to fish, big carp or whatever. He pretends to pour a bit of whiskey down its neck. Nah, hang on, fish don't have necks. Into its mouth. It's like, oh, don't talk to me about boats. I spent my life on boats. I know everything about boats. I love boats. And he gets in a rowboat and begins to do this. That's enough of that. And staggers off. And then sits down, pisses a fart, as two hooks come through the wall behind him and pin him. Where's that hook again? Like this. A couple of them. And he's like, ah! And suddenly the mob appear again. And with a big long boat hook, they slash him down the face and across the throat and take pictures of him again. Taking pictures. So our sheriff and Dobbs the mortician arrive at the scene. Dobbs, don't tell me this wasn't a murder. No, Daniel, this clearly was a murder. But why would they go to the trouble of putting the other body in the upturned vehicle to make it look like it was an accident and yet not do it with this? I should say that the killers, straight away, we've seen them committing atrocious murders, and then as the sheriff goes into the diner, the cafe, and sits with the locals, including Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, and they get a backstory there. Our sheriff here could have gone to the big city because they're all after him because he's qualified, he's educated, he's a criminal detective mastermind, but he chose to come back to live with us, the rustics and all that, and so we owe him a debt of gratitude and all this. And he's like, Mitch, I want my coffee. And the girl that comes up, Mitch, who's actually played by one of the writers of this, the screenwriters, it's his wife, and she comes up. She's the girl that lit the match to set the first guy, the photographer, on fire. And you're like, with Joe Renzetti's score, it's like dun dun dun. You're like, she did it. They're all part of it. What's going on? It's a conspiracy. So all of a sudden, you're thrown a wobbler. You've got no idea. We trust our sheriff, and our sheriff is married to, of all people, Melody Anderson, who had just been in Flash Gordon with Sam J. Jones. She played, Dale Arden magnificently, and the film hadn't yet come out. Director Gary Sherman and Ronald Shusett, who was a writer and producer on it, they thought they've landed a coup. We've got Melody Anderson. She's in what's going to be the biggest sci-fi movie of the 80s. After Star Wars, the 70s, it's going to be Flash Gordon's going to be the one. And of course, Flash Gordon flopped when it came out. Yeah, we all love Flash Gordon. I've reviewed it many times. We love it. It's magnificent. But it didn't do great guns when it came out. So they thought, we got a great start. This will do us favours here. And she's great in this. But Flash Gordon came out, flopped, and it didn't help Dead and Buried. So her name being there was not the big draw that they thought it would be. But she plays Janet. I am married to a Janet. I don't know that many Janets. I've got a sister whose name is Janet, but I don't know many real life Janets. And in movies, apart from Janet Leigh, there isn't that many Janets around. So when I watch it now, and you hear the name Janet being used quite a bit, and like my wife is a Janet, not a Jan. Some Janets are Jan. No, call me Jan. She's not. She's a Janet. And so it's like, it has an added bit of poignancy for me. But she's his wife, a school teacher. And the sheriff finds out that photographer guy that just arrived in town and then got flambéed big time, he was staying in a hotel in town, but they don't know his name. But they do get into his the room he was renting, and the guy who owns the hotel, putting on a very strange accent. I should say right now, this film has a couple of characters have very, very bizarre accents, and they've done it on purpose because it's meant to be in the east coast, the northeastern coast of America, not California where they actually did film it. So they affect a bit of a Dutch accent, and this guy's accent is really off the rails, and it does throw you a bit of like, Christ, where are we? We're in this kind of weird limbo land. It's like, look, well, they get all photography books out of but you haven't seen him since. He paid for the room and he hasn't checked out. His stuff's all here. That's got to be the guy that's flambéed in hospital right now. It's got to be him. Well, what's his name? Well, ask your wife. It's like, what? Ask my wife. Ask your wife. Janet. What the hell has it got to do with Janet? She was here. The maid told me. I can't do a Dutch accent at all. And he's going like, look, ask your wife. So our boys now like, this guy comes out of nowhere, gets murdered, the fisherman gets murdered. What's my wife got to do with any of this? Why would she be seen in a hotel room with this guy? So he goes home and he has to ask her, and she's like, oh, all defensive and all that. Like, well, no, Janet, come on, tell me, what, you jealous? No, just, who was this guy you met? You were seen in a hotel room. I know. He's a photographer. He was selling equipment and photography to the school. She's a school teacher, and he's like, oh, okay, right. What's his name then? Because they don't know his name. And she goes, oh, George. I think it was George. I'm not too sure. I didn't know his surname. I barely ever knew him, but we were getting the stuff from him. So anyway, are we okay? Oh, so he's the guy who's been barbecued. I feel kind of icky. Dan, can I have a hug? Can I have a hug, please? So he will hug her. And who wouldn't hug Melody Anderson? But something ain't right. There's a real smell of off fish about this entire area. I should say right now, the cinematography is by a guy called Stephen Poster. And what they did, because they filmed it in California, Mendocino, which has fog, real life fog all the time, and this film is full of mist and fog. But you can't, as John Carpenter when he did The Fog, you can't control real life fog. You have to create your own. So they did, and they brought in one of those big Everglade fan boats, the big fan at the back, and it goes up all the Everglades and all that. They brought one of those in and used the fan to propel the fake mist, the dry ice, which suffuses all the nighttime scenes in this movie. It is full of fog. But not only that, to give the depiction that they're a rather less than warm climate, the northeastern coast, they put a huge flag. As director Gary Sherman will tell you, it's the biggest flag you've ever seen, and we hung it on a crane, and we had tarpaulins, and we had gauze, which would diffuse the sunlight and make it murky. They also desaturated it, so that the only colours you would see would be red. Blood, obviously. Lisa Blount's little cut-off tie around the boobs, top at the start, which she does unleash the produce within, and it was meant to be just only when you see blood you're going to see red. Everything else is desaturated. So it's very murky. Now that said, there are several scenes where you see James Valentino leaving the little sheriff's department, just a little shuttered down house, with his little old lady on the teletype and all this. And when he walks out, and you see the main street of Montesino, and it's cheesecloth. they clearly have put cheesecloth across the lens because it's a crisscrossed effect, and you see it a lot throughout the sort of daytime scenes, which are obviously done to diffuse the sunlight. As filming went on, the time of year that you were filming it, it was getting warmer and the sun was up a lot more, so you had to get rid of all that. It's low budget again, and they were filming locally, not too far from the studios itself, and the interiors are filmed in LA as well, and a few streets. In fact, James Valentino and Janet's house is actually in LA. And to add to this effect of like this really inclement weather, you know, like in Jaws, Brody in Jaws, he drives the Jeep he drives. He drives a great one in Jaws, a different colour. It's a beige one in Jaws 2. It's a blue one in Jaws, and it's gleaming. And even though I can't drive a car, if I can't have a car, the only cars I want in the world, oh no, there's several. A Di Tommaso Pantera, a Mad Max Interceptor, a V8 Interceptor, a Ford Falcon, in other words, a Lotus Esprit, you know, and Brody's Jeep, Brody's Amity Police Department Jeep. I want one of those. Now in this, James Valentino drives a not too dissimilar style Jeep. It's a bit more bulky and bulbous, a bit squat, but look at it. It is rusted to hell. It's dirty, it's cancerous. And if you look at all the houses and everything, the clapperboards, they're all mildewed, they're full of mold, they're discoloured. Everything's rusty, everything's old, everything's wet. You get this sort of almost like a H.P. Lovecraft Dagon style aesthetic, where everything is like wet to touch and cold and clammy. It's done brilliantly, and yet Mendocino's not like that at all. You know, it's foggy, but it's not that. It's nice and clean and bright most of the time. So even when it's bright and sunny, they put the cheesecloth in front of the camera lens to give it this dirty, jaundiced sort of, there's something in the spider webs in front of you. It's brilliant. It evokes nothing but discomfort and disquiet, even during the daylight scenes. So you've lost two people, but the guy who got flambéed, oh boy, he goes to the hospital. It's like, is he, you know, to the doctor, as he started talking, you know, well, he's come out of his coma now. This is a guy who is now encased entirely, head to foot, in bandages with just one eyeball. His left eyeball is revealed there. You can pretty much see what I've done here. I've recreated it here. And he's asking, you know, can the doctor, can I interview him? Can I speak to him? Look, Dan, you know, come on. Let's talk outside. And if you look at this, Exorcist 3 kind of mimics this with the stuff. Hospital scene, hospital ward, big long corridor, nurse in the background. Mimics it a little bit. The two of them sit, one either side of the frame like that. And in the background, you see a nurse come down from the background and walk towards that room. The doctor's telling him, look, if you get to speak to him, his brain is scrambled, he's been through hell, but also, I don't know what you're going to get out of him because, well, he's got no lips. His lips have been burnt off. You know, to be honest with you, I would have thought that having inhaled flames and smoke, his vocal cords have been, you know, completely, you know, incinerated as well. So that's why he couldn't speak, but he's got no lips. Anyway, he's there, and Lisa Blount, who played Lisa, I could be a model, couldn't I? Am I pretty enough? You know, the opening scene, and she comes in dressed as a nurse, and he's like, his eyes like, and she comes up with the biggest hypodermic you've ever seen in your life. You can see my depiction of it right there. And he's like, and she goes, it's good to see you feeling better. Well, this is going to make you feel even better. This huge hypo, and she just goes and stabs it with a huge succulent right into his eyeball, and you go, oh no! It fucking kills him, obviously. Just drills it straight into his brain. in reality, that entire body is an animatronic created by Stan Winston. There's Chris Allport, who plays that guy, who you'll see again because no one's really gone. You may be dead, but that doesn't mean you're not in the film anymore. And he does not play the guy in the bed, writhing in bandages. The entire sequence, even beforehand, it's an animatronic. Both arms move, the legs move, the trunk moves, the head moves, the eye moves, everything moves, but it's all animatronic. And when that hypo goes in with that horrible, and you go, oh no, oh God. It's filmed in reverse. She's actually taking it out of the eyeball, but they do it, when they film it, it goes, oh, and it's just so horrible. So now you begin to realise why this may have been, no, this is a video nasty, it's horrible. This guy got beaten to a pulp and then set on fire, and now he's had his eyeball punctured with a big hypo. Yeah, it's got scenes like that in it, but it doesn't, it's super quick. We're not talking Lucio Fulci with zombie flesh eaters here, with the eyeball, Olga Carlotas, and the zombie bringing her head towards the longest, nastiest shard of splintered wood you have ever seen. And it punctures an eyeball and keeps on going right the way through. Screams, a face tear, everything. It's, well, you know the scene I mean. Well, this is nothing compared to that. But editing is the thing. And it just goes, she goes, well, this will make you feel even better. It's like, and it's just the noise, the puncturing of the eyeball and the fluid, the ocular fluid. Oh God, dies. So they run in there. Someone's just killed him. So now our sheriff now knows there's murder. It's genuinely murder. This guy was done in somewhere else and then put in that vehicle and then been murdered in hospital, so he can't tell. The fisherman has been murdered. His body is found on like a... When they filmed this, they found old bits of machinery and the remnants of vehicles which have been underwater, and they fished them out. And so the fisherman who gets sliced up with boat hooks, they just propped, well, the actor is just sitting there on the fished up remains of, I think it's a tractor or something like that, and he's just propped up on that. Like, so it just makes it even more bizarre because they're killing these people and then placing them somewhere else. So he goes back to Dobbs. Now, this guy was, what's going on, Dobbs? And Dobbs, Jack Albertson, with big Coke bottle glasses, playing his gramophone records. It's like, and you see him in the mortuary, he's attending to various clients, putting the makeup on them and all that. And he has like this almost begrudgingly father-son relationship with Dan, James Valentino's character. Dan, you disappoint me, And he's playing all his records, and like, look, you see what I do? What I think's obscene is that, a body comes to me, it's all mashed up, it's a mess. You present something that smells like, burnt beef, and I have to make something of it and beautify it, bring it back to its former glory. I will put fake eyeballs in, I will put bits of paper underneath a hand, clasping a hand that has no fingers. I will do this, that and the other. My art, my magic. And it all happens to that. It gets sealed in a box, in a casket, and put on the ground. No one gets to see the work that I did. Okay, the work that you did. His artistry. And if you've seen the film, folks, I know a lot of you have, so but we're going through it bit by bit. It's nice to know that composer Joe Renzetti does a great little bit of sort of, foreshadowing. Even though like he's playing big band stuff and on his Victorola, and he's kind of he's old, he's dancing around and all this in his suit, and he's putting the rouge on the face of a corpse, sewing up lips or whatever hell he's doing. Like Joe Renzetti's score, as edgy and frightening as it actually is, with actual score moments and melancholy for its main theme. The big band stuff, Joe Renzetti's orchestra plays the big band stuff, but they rise or drop an octave or two to give, even though what you think is the record playing, it's them playing it, the orchestra playing it, and it gives like just a slightly unsettling feel. So even though, you know, I think, oh, he's just the eccentric old mortician, he's great, he's a grandfather, he could be a Doctor Who, he could be Peter Cushing's Doctor Who from the old 60s Doctor Who movies. He's just one of those. He was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, for God's sake. He can't be any harm, can he? But the music gives you a little bit of an inkling, a bit of a signpost, you know, and it's brilliant. So he's like, look, you know, I have my art here. You bring these bodies, and like, but they get sealed away. You've also got the whole thing with Mrs. Sheriff, Melody Anderson. She says to him, you know, I've got this this roll of film which the kids have been doing. It's a project. Can you take it into the photo developer? I mean, the film's obviously dated. There's no cell phones, you know, there's nothing like that. There's no internet. It's very much of its time, quite clearly. So it's a roll of cine film, Super 8, you know, cine film. Take that in, and I want it developed, you know, like, okay, yeah, fine, great, yeah, no worries. And what you'll get as well, other people have shit happening to them, right? Deathline. Gary Sherman, the director of this movie, made a film in the early 70s in the UK called Deathline. I've reviewed it. Cannibalistic old underground worker picking off commuters on the London Underground. And Gary Sherman's an American, and he made observations of UK, British society, witty observations and, you know, visual asides and eccentricities of characters, which was just, you would not think an American had made that movie. And then you got John Landis making An American Werewolf in London, and again, you would not have thought an American made that movie, because he gets Britain's society, Britain's TV, everything about British culture of the late 70s, early 80s for American Werewolf is spot on. And Gary Sherman nailed it in the early 70s. I've reviewed that movie, it's fantastic. I'll put the link to that. And then he makes this, but back on home turf. Just a little bit of a side here. The entire cast and crew got on like a house on fire. If you get one of the Blu-rays, the 4K of it, you'll see the home movies, the behind the scenes footage. They're all laughing and joking, have a wonderful, wonderful time. What I will say though is, this film was written, the story is by Alex something or other, can't even read my own writing. Alex Stern, I think, and Jeff Milner. But the screenplay is written by Ron Shusett and Dan O'Bannon from Alien. Now, Dan O'Bannon wanted to get his name taken off this movie because the reasons are, Dan O'Bannon, sadly deceased now. Dan O'Bannon, Life Force, Dark Star, Return of the Living Dead. Oh yeah, fantastic. Nothing of his writing is in this movie. Nothing at all. And when Ron Shusett said to him, look, come back in and do some more rewrites, change a few things, add some things. I said, okay, I'll come in, I'll do that. And he did. And then he saw the movie and he went, nothing I added or took away or changed is in the movie. I want my name taken off the film. But of course the film was out, he couldn't get his name taken off. So he hated the movie. He basically had nothing to do with it, the finished product. But that's the whole Dan O'Bannon, Ronald Shusett side of things, which, you know, that's only what I know. Sad, but that's the way things go. And where was I going with that? No idea where I was going with that. But what the hell? let's get back to the movie itself. Oh yeah, they're having a great time. That's what I'm saying. They're all having a great time. Wonderful, lots of fun on set. Lots of flying by the seat of their pants, erecting that flag and the gauze and the tarps to try and diffuse the sunlight. Really just making stuff up as they went. How can we get around this? Well, they can rig up this. They were all young and they were having fun. But as I say, Gary Sherman, several years before, had done a film in the UK, Deathline, and low budget but with big stars. Christopher Lee's in there, Donald Pleasance is in there, Leonard Ross, I can't remember now. There's big stars in that movie, cult classic figures, and he marshalled them very well. He's a great director, and it comes across in the film as well, because the camaraderie, the weird camaraderie of all the townsfolk is infectious, and yet we know they've all committed these murders together en masse. But we're totally on the side with James Valentino and his police procedural investigation. Other murders take place. We have a young hitchhiker played by Lisa Marie. No, not that Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie she's exceptionally gorgeous. Only made a handful of movies, but her nose is like a ski slope. It's one of them slalom things. You can do that. You take off on your skis. Her nose does that. But she's lovely, and she's hitchhiking, and a dilapidated pickup pulls up and lets her in. You can't see the driver at the time, but he's singing and joking. Oh, where you going to? And I'm like, well, little town up the road, Potter's Bluff. You may want to stay there. It's great. That's where I'm going. But on the way, I've got to stop and pick something up from where I live. He drives into a boatyard. The boatyard where the fisherman got killed. And then he goes, I'm just going to pick something up, don't worry. Opens the glove compartment right opposite, right in front of her, pulls out a camera. And she's like, what's that for? Like, it's the fisherman that got killed. Yeah, just earlier. He's taking pictures of her. Door opens, she gets pulled out by the mob, who happens to be waiting there. She's on the deck, and they pick up a great big rock and go on her head. Oh God, no. We'll return to that. But also, you've got a family turn up one night. A family. That's a mother and a father, and a tatty, tousle-haired, cherubic little swine. A kid actor. Damn, you hate them, don't you? With his plane, his toy plane, and they pull up. Like, well, where are we going to? I think we're lost. We need gas as well. But they pull up at that diner. The diner with Mitch serving the coffees. Mitch, who struck the match that set fire to the photographer, who got the hypo in his eye. That guy. That waitress. She's there, and he walks in. The father. He's like, look, I need to find so-and-so house. Oh, that's not too far. You take highway whatever, which is just out there. You go right up the road there. It's fine. Oh, that's brilliant. And then his wife and the son come in, and the waitress goes like, who's married to Ron Schuster, the co-screenwriter. And she goes, oh, what a cute little boy. What can I do for you? And he says like, oh, he wants the toilet. Do you want the toilet? I'll take the toilet. And he just goes, oh, you want your mum and dad to take you? Well, what do you want then? Ice cream! Yeah, kids. Ice cream. They go, oh God. Oh, honey, we've got no ice cream here. And then mum and dad are going, oh, it doesn't matter. We'll get some later. Don't worry about that. Oh, can we get some gas? Freddie, do you want to get some gas? Freddie here owns the gas station. And who turns around? Freddie, who's the photographer who got beaten and barbecued. He's alive and well again. Sorry folks, I've been out, I've had a few whiskies throughout the day, so the throat's gone dry, and now I'm drinking cold tea. So off they drive. Oh well, yeah, I'll give you some gas, don't worry, just go up the road there. And as they're driving up, a figure runs past the car, which only the driver, the father, sees. And he swears, oh Jesus, crashes into a telephone pole. I'm like, oh my God, and the kid bangs his head. Well, what are we going to do now? The mist being blown by that Everglades fan boat, drifting the mist down. And what are we going to do? And the mother sees there's a ghost house there, sees a light just wink on and wink off again. There's a house there, there's a light on. I can't see no light. She goes, well, I didn't see anyone run in front of the car either. All right, I'll go check then. So off he goes. And this cues a really intense sequence, which even though what's going to happen, even when you know what's going to happen, it's genuinely unnerving because there's a kid involved, it's a family involved. And they do go into this house, and this was a real life deserted house in Mendocino. And they get in there, they're using matches, they can't see a damn thing. I'll go down to the basement and I'll turn the fuse box back on and all that. Off he goes. In the meantime, the great camera by Steve Poster, the great lighting, the mother and the son, she's cradling him, he's crying, banged his head and all that in the crash. There's figures going past the outside windows, and one just looms up and is watching through behind them. So you know there's a bunch of them. Anyway, fuse box doesn't really work. Dad comes back up, frightens the hell out of mum and the son and all that. And like, hey, it's only me. Next thing you know, shutters open up and a guy smashes through the window with a hook. Welcome to Potter's Bluff. And they're like, oh, Jesus. Everywhere they go, people pop out the cupboards, the wardrobes, up from the stairs. Now they're everywhere. They have to run upstairs, barricade themselves in a bedroom, and the mob begins to start bashing down the door. They open the window, they climb out. The actor playing the dad has a dummy of the kid on his shoulders, and they climb down and they get back to the car. These people are taking pictures again, flash bulb, big flashes going off. They get into the car won't start. Oh shit! You know, the same old thing, but it's genuinely unnerving because they've got a kid with them. It's like, these people are going to take out a family? Oh God, no! And you see them silhouetted by the backlit fog and the car headlights, and the mob are beginning to come down the road towards them. It's similar to many other movies. Invasion of Body Snatchers, visually and thematically. The Fog, obviously. Jaws and grisly small town sheriff with mysterious murders and deaths and no one believing him, and people closing ranks upon them. But there's one film which this film definitely inspired, which we'll come on to. Remind me. I'm prone to forget, but remind me. Oh, I'll tell you now. Halloween 3. We'll come back onto that later on. Start the car. And one of these twats is in the back seat. A woman just grabs the kid and so the father leaps over the car seats and grabs half of her scalp and pulls it away and then boots it out the car. Then they get in the car started and they drive through the mob. Again, John Carpenter again, Halloween 3, The Fog, and In the Mouth of Madness, small town, a mob descending on a car, having to drive through it. Visually, very similar again. And they drive through the mob. They get away, but this bitch is on the bonnet of the car and she's smashing through the glass, the windscreen. They manage to shake it off, and then he seems to get away with it. Next thing you know, you've got Freddy. Well, I think his name's Harry in this, but it's Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund. The guy who wants to salvage all the vehicles, and he calls the sheriff. Well, we just pulled a Buick out the surf. It's been done. It's obviously come off the bluffs. And the sheriff's like, anybody in it? No, there's no one in it. But we found a kid's toy airplane, and you see Robert Englund just spinning the propellers on this old vintage airplane model. And you're like, oh no! So the family didn't get away with it. They got the family as well. Now, in the meantime, James Valentino, our sheriff, has he's found books on witchcraft and voodoo in the drawer in his wife's dressing table. Janet, where's the shells? Where's my shells? And she's downstairs cleaning the silver and the silverware. And she's going like, oh, you mean from the beach the other day, the seashells? No, Janet, the bullet shells. Bullets, Janet, bullets. I've had a very similar conversation with my Mrs. Janet as well. And she finds him, but he's found these books. What the hell are you doing with these books? Witchcraft, voodoo. And he's read, there's a little paragraph which she's written around, just drawn around it. And it says, it's basically saying, if you want to own that body, you've got to, they must die by vicious and violent means before they can be brought back. And he's like, what the hell is this? Like, the murders in town are all horrifically violent and nasty. Because he's found that girl as well, who got, but he's found, they put her on the road, Lisa Marie, they put her on the road, looked like a road accident. And you just see him like looking under the, the covering at the face and going, oh, like that. And so he knows these things, there's too many things happening. And James Valentino was great at going like, like, what the hell is happening around here? You can't believe it. What the hell is going on? Janet, why have you got books on voodoo and witchcraft? Which is the complete role reversal in this house. My wife says to me, why have you got books on witchcraft and voodooism? Actually, she doesn't bother asking because she knows where I've got them. That's how we have the staff in this house. They're all dead, but they do my bidding. And she says, oh, it's a project for the class. A project for the kids in school. Witchcraft. Well, kids love this. I don't want them to be distracted by other stuff. So this is entertaining for them. And it's like, are you fucking crazy? You're teaching kids witchcraft and the occult. What the fuck is wrong with you? She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And by the way, I found your shells. They were in a cupboard where you left them. And throws them at him. Catches him. Oh, John, I'm sorry. Everything's getting to me. The pressure. There's so much going on. Yeah. Did you get my film back? Did you give my film from the class's project to the film developer? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do it. Dan, that's important. That's the kid's project. I'll do it first thing. Right. So you've got this going on. That hitchhiking girl, right? Now, you will see her on the slab at Dobbs's, mortician's laboratory, whatever you call it. And he's like, oh, so sad, so beautiful. How could they do this to such beauty? And you see her face, it's all mashed in on one side, like fucking like rocks gone down, like. And then you see a scalpel go in. And this is a really haunting sequence. Because now you're going to get to know what's going on, or kind of what's going on. He works on this, you just see hands working, and in like sort of frame lapse dissolve, you'll see face get taken back to pure skeleton. Then you'll see skin grafting going on, layers of flesh going on, and the face getting built up. Then makeup, bald, but the makeup getting put on, eyeballs getting put in. One's in one socket, hooks pulling back the eye, and another one putting another eyeball in, like that. The wig goes on. What you don't see, and cleverly done, although I'll be honest, I think you can spot it for one obvious reason. You've got a dummy, which is just the torso and the arms and the head. Obviously done from a sculpt of Lisa Marie, the actress Lisa Marie. That's there, and Dobbs is working on this, and the camera's looking at it, and then the camera pans up to him. And what they do, they move hair out the way and put the real actress, who's lying very similar, and the mannequin and the dummy head, the sculpted head, is absolutely identical to Lisa Marie. Even that nose, and she's got a skit in the nose, but she's gorgeous. And she's there, and the hair's on, and suddenly he goes like, now you can sleep the sleep you deserve. You're back to your former beauty. And that's it. And he bends down, he kisses her, and he backs out the room and shuts the door. And a figure we don't see the face, but we know who it is. Comes over and just sort of whispers in its ear and then retreats into the shadows again. I apologise for this. I start yakking so much that my throat gets super, super dry. And this mysterious figure retreats into the shadows, and then suddenly Lisa Marie just, the eyes open, breathes, gets up, looks around, looks at us, and it's like, wow. But it's a really eerie and beautifully filmed, edited moment. But what I will say is, even while it's meant to be the dummy, meant to be the dead version, you can see the chest moving up and down. So you go, oh, she's alive. So sort of like the big mystery, and like, yeah, well, he's brought her back to life. She's alive. And then the camera pans up, and then the body gets replaced with the supposedly real actress. But you can clearly see that it's breathing beforehand. I don't know. It doesn't ruin anything at all, but so she's back to life. Now, I will say that you've seen her before. Even before this character got killed as the hitchhiker, you've seen her. Her death is after the family incident, because you see her in the diner when the family come in to ask for gas and the kid wants ice cream. She's talking at the hatch, the diner, bar thing, the table, the counter, that's the way I'm looking for, the counter. She's talking to Freddie, the mechanic who runs the gas station, the one who got burned alive. And like, she's there. Then only when you watch the film again, you go, oh my God, she's there. So she was already in the town before she got killed as a hitchhiker. And you see it in the attack on the family in the house, where they're all converging on the family, running up and down the stairs and all that, trying to barricade themselves. She's there as well. So it's like, when you watch the film again, it pays for repeated viewings to pick up on a lot of these things. Dan goes to the school. There's something about his wife he's not buying exactly. And he spies on her through the door to her classroom, and she's teaching the kids about witchcraft and voodoos and zombies, and how like zombies are created. And do you want to hear the really creepy part? Like, to control the zombie, you have to cut out the heart and keep it hidden away, and then you've got control over him. But she does all like, zombies don't walk around like this, and then goes for one other kid, and he's in the window, and James Francino again, he's loving it, he's laughing. Oh, she's great with the kids, and it's wonderful. But it's also, it unnerves him when he hears what she's saying about the heart and controlling zombies, and the Walking Dead can come back and all that. Someone can control them. He's putting it all together. What's going on here? I know there's a sequence I've yet to talk about, but we're going to come on to that. And but in a great moment here, she's talking to the kids. It's really creepy, isn't it? But hey, it's just the occult and blah blah blah. And the camera pans down to the little kid who was playing with the airplane. He's there with his big tousle hair and all that. Like, so he's meant to have died, but he's there as well. He's been brought back. What the hell is going on? The guy with the Dutch accent. Ask your wife. Ask your wife. He storms into Valentino's police station, and like Valentino's there. He's like, well, oh, Doug, whatever his name is. I don't know. What do you want? What's up? The man. What man? The man who was burned. The man. The mystery man. I've seen him. He's alive. He's in town. What were you saying? He's dead. He got stabbed in the fucking eye with a big hypo and burned alive. And what the hell? He's working in the gas station. You go and look. Ask your wife. Ask your wife. They keep pointing the finger at the wife, at Dale Arden, Melody Anderson. It's like, what the hell? And in a great sequence, because you're piecing it all together. Hang on. Well, you know what the story is, without saying it right now. So James Valentino meets, after that school moment, he drives his wife back in the family car, and they call in to the gas station. He's just been told by this guy, he's there. the man, he's there, he's serving at the gas station. And he pulls up and wind the window down, and the gas attendant, who is the guy that got set on fire and hypo in the eye, hiya sheriff, you know, what do you want? I'll just fill it up with you, Freddy. And you're like, that's the guy that died, and the sheriff is going like, just talking to him. The sheriff never saw his face, you see, he only saw the burnt face. So it does work. You think, oh, that's a plot hole. What? How does he suddenly know this guy? Because he never saw the victim's face at all. Right, so we have the wife. Ask your wife. You've got Dobbs, who's doing stuff as well, seemingly. The incident with the family. When the family get chased and they're driving off in the fog and all that, they've just ditched, you know, the hitchhiker on the bonnet of the car. They ditched that and they drive past, and like our sheriff is just doing his patrol, his nightly patrol, all the, you know, the boatyards and the shanties and all that. Like, in fact, this could be the music for it right now. And he's got his flashlights and all that. He's just patrolling his town. And as he comes to a crossroads, this fucking car speeds past, and it's the family in the car vamoosing out of town. He's like, whoa, like that. But as he does that, he fucking slams into someone who's chasing after that vehicle. Bang! And he's like, and it's brilliant because Tarantino's just like, shit! This is a quiet town. I've got murders and deaths and all sorts, and like, what the fuck, and like, what, and like, I just hit someone and he's like, oh fuck, what the fuck else can happen right now? He's not having a good time at all. And he gets out, and this is a fucking great sequence, this. And the body's all crumpled up on the deck, and as he leans down to check on the body, something brushes his shoulder, and he turns around. There's a severed arm attached to the grill, you know, at the front of his car, and it's going like, oh man, he's like, oh Jesus Christ, and this arm is like, severed arm there, and it's going, and it's like, oh my god, and suddenly the thing gets up behind him, and with its one good arm, fucking clubs him, wrenches off its other arm, and runs off. So he gives chase to it.
A masterpiece, complete and beautiful.
Dobbs. And he chases after it, like, and it's a bit of a point break. They're going over like the fence posts and the fences of these gardens. But it's nighttime and misty. Francino gets the flashlights out, and he's got his revolver out, and he goes into one of these little sheds, little warehouse or something. A pigeon fucking flies out of a cupboard, as these things do, and he fucking blows it away through a window. It's a great big sequence of ultra eeriness and great, almost, well, like the great director Peter Hyams uses real light. He will not have a dark scene where, oh, we've got lights so you, the audience, can see the characters, the actors doing their thing. He said, if there's no, I will have only real light. The only light in a dark scene will come from what they're holding, a torch, or a lantern, or a candle. That's where the light's going to come from. There'll be no other light on set. And this seems like that as well. And I love that about Gary Sherman's movies, because he does the same sort of thing to a degree. And Steve posted his lighting for the movie. So it's you really are in the dark. And Tarantino's got this torch, with a torch and his gun around that. So all you can see is what he's illuminating. And it's brilliantly evocative. Doesn't find the guy whose arm's been ripped off, but what he does do, he's hearing about this thing about the dead coming back to life and all that, like from his wife's lesson and the books on voodoo and witchcraft. And he even asks Dobbs, he's like, Dobbs, do you think, you know, the dead can be brought back to life and can walk around? And Dobbs says to him, like, you know, look, in my occupation, that's not a very cheery thought, is it? I guess not. But he asked the doctor. I have not written the doctor's name down. I do apologise. He's in it a little bit as well. And the same guy that said, like, don't talk to him because he's got no fucking lips, about the burnt guy. And he's like, well, he gets some scrapings where the severed arm was. Gets some scrapings of that. He's like, can you check that out for us? which he does check it out, and he goes, and you see an argument between the doctor and the sheriff. He's like, "What? You know, tell me that again. You know, well, whoever this was, they died about 4 months ago." And he's like, "That can't be. This was from a hit and run." It doesn't say it was him. He will do. He'll explain it later on. It's from a hit and run, but it wasn't 4 months ago. It only happened recently. No. Must be some kind of mistake. He said, "No, it's no mistake. That flesh is old flesh. You know, simple as." And Dobbs then says that Dobbs, the mortician, says to him, "Look, this is a bit embarrassing for me, Daniel." He calls him Daniel because the body, the hitchhiker, it's gone. What do you mean it's gone? Well, it got up and walked away. Well, it's gone, which is now cementing in Tarantino's mind that, or Dan Gillis's mind, that fucking hell, the dead. These people are getting killed, but they're coming back again. You know, what the hell is going on? So that's what he says to Dobbs. "Do you believe that the dead can be brought back and can walk around?" Well, in my profession, that's not a healthy idea to have. Blah 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 blah. And although we know that Dobbs is definitely involved in all this, of course he is. And in the meantime, the doctor. Now, I should say at this point, Gary Sherman's original cut of the movie is different from the theatrical cut and the version that you're going to see and you watched on DVD, Blu-ray and whatever. And the original version that he made, it doesn't exist anymore. They destroyed it. This film went through 3 separate distribution companies. It's Avco Embassy initially, who then also oversaw the whole thing, but different companies came in. And although everybody loved Gary Sherman's initial cut, which he says held back on some of the gore, but played up the gallows black humour, made it funny, but it was really darkly taboo breaking, humour. But it wasn't quite as visceral and graphic as the film turned out to be. And he said, well, and what happened is like the final company that took over said, no, we need more gore. Every horror film that comes out now is celebrated for its gory splatter sequences, and of course at that time it would be. Tom Savini was the king of splatter. The Prowler, The Burning, Friday the 13th, and you had all the Halloween 2, all these movies were gore galore. So they go, well, you're gonna have to go back and put some more gore into this. The same thing happened with Halloween 2, of course. Rick Rosenthal directed it, and then John Carpenter was told it was his movie, but he was producing it. He wasn't directing it, but he wrote the fucking thing. He said, look, we need more shock scenes. This is boring. Go back in, put some more shock scenes in, more gore. So that's what they did, and quite rightly so, because otherwise Halloween 2 would have been really, really shit without the extra visceral quality. But that's what happened to this movie as well. Go back in, put more gory scenes in, and it changed the tone of the film. Now, we've only got Gary Sherman's word for how his original version would be. And everyone apparently saw it back at the time and said, it was a better version. They all loved it. But he does say that, well, the version you're seeing now really isn't that different. We didn't have any extra scenes which they cut out, but we had to put more scenes in. I think it just changed the balance of the movie a little bit. So it was less sort of blackly satirical and more horror. And Gary Sherman has always said, he's not a massive fan of horror films, but he likes certain ones, although he's bloody good at making some of them. Deathline and this, obviously. But he said, I was trying not to be that horrific, but they wanted more. So there's a scene which I'm about to describe, but also the scene which I mentioned before, where Lisa Marie is brought back to life. Dobbs puts all it does is whatever he does with the body, brings it back to glorious, looking alive, as most dead bodies do. Oh, he's never looked so healthy when you see the deceased in the cask. Oh, because they've worked their magic, the mortician has worked their magic, and you go, oh my God, look at the rosy cheeks and all that, like, the picture of health. Who'd have thought that they'd meet their end in a combine harvest and look. And But he retreats out the room and this mysterious figure comes through and then brings Lisa Marie back to life. That is an extra scene. And Gary Sherman says, for the life of me, I do not remember directing that. I had to go back and direct extra scenes to put in the movie, which I don't like. I didn't want to do them, and the more violent scenes, but apparently I did this scene where this figure comes in, which of course makes you think that Dobbs is innocent and this other figure is the one in charge, when it doesn't make any sense. And also the scene I'm about to describe with the doctor doesn't make any sense, and it's another extra scene. The doctor, again, you know, he's like, okay, no, that's getting off someone that died 4 months ago, blah, 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 blah. And then you get this extra sequence where he finds something under a microscope. It can't be. No, it can't be. So he phones the sheriff, but he gets the busybody, you know, his receptionist, and she says, no, he's not here right now, but I'll take a message. Tell him to call me back. It's important. No, it can't be. You never find out what it can't be, because this scene shouldn't exist. Suddenly, the entire mob of fishermen and Mitch from the waitress from the diner, they're all there. And Lisa Blount, you know, the sexy model, they're all there. The hypo, you know, that one, they're all there. And he's like, oh, what the hell? You know, what you all want? And they pull him back. And they're clued up because they get these two tubes and they shove them up his nostrils, and they turn it down. He's like, what are you doing? That's acid. No, and they pump acid into his face and his head, and he goes, oh, it all blisters and bubbles, and black blood comes out. Remember I said about colour being desaturated? It's a very desaturated movie. You only get to see red when Lisa Blount's blouse, the Blount blouse, and gore. But most of the gore is actually desaturated anyway, so it's kind of... But this scene, these people suddenly know how to work medical machinery and acid and stuff, shove up his nostrils. Stan Winston does all the effects in this movie except for this scene, and you can clearly see, because that head, that animatronic head, the sculpt, it's so obviously fake, whereas his fake heads are absolutely realistic and totally authentic, faithful to the original people. The head which gets the hypo in it, you swear to God that's Chris Allport in that bandages, and it gets in his eye, because it's so realistic. The whole thing moves, the eye moves, everything moves. The remains of the lips are moving, everything is there. It's brilliant, but it's all fake. And then you get this, and it's like, that's clearly a fucking dummy head, and like, I just go, it's horrible. It's a horrible scene, but it's so patently unrealistic. And Stan Winston didn't do it. I don't know who did the effect for that. I don't think Gary Sherman even remembers who did the effects for it. But anyway, that's where it is. But the point of it is, that's another added scene which doesn't make any sense when you find out what's really going on. There was absolutely no need to kill the doctor. No need whatsoever. Because he's part of the whole thing. So why would they have to kill him? And the sheriff doesn't even know he gets killed. So there's no reason for it. Because the next time you see the doctor, he's back to normal again. He's alive again. Alive oh. And you've got Tarantino saying, like, look, he's asked Dobbs. Now he asks him, look, remember the flesh fibres I gave to you? Yes, I do. So this guy that's been dead, acid face and all that, been brought back again, and but you remember what happened? And you're like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah. And it was like 4 months old. So even 4 months old, yeah. Well, what if I told you it can't have been, because the hit and run I told you about, I did it. It was my car, and it happened last night or whatever. You know, it happened the night before. No, that can't be. It's like, he grabs it. He's like, no, it is. It's suddenly. Our boy gets distracted because he's took pictures of when the guys were going, ask your wife. No, the guy that died, you know, he's at the gas station now. Because it's all making him think, look, the dead are coming back. Someone's in charge of this. Something's going on here. With a Polaroid camera with multiple flashes on it. he pulls up to Freddie's gas station, and Chris Allport comes out like, and he just goes, choo, 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 takes a load of Polaroid pictures, and Freddie's just like, that, the fuck are you doing? It's a nice reversal because they're taking pictures of all the people that they're about to murder, and suddenly they're getting pictures taken of them, and he goes back to the old biddy. So like, look, send that picture to St. Louis or whatever, like, and find out if that's their missing person, and also tell X somewhere else, and I want every detail on William Dobbs' mortician. She's like, okay, yeah. Well, when he's talking to the doctor, she gets like, come back. I've the telex. They responded, and you find out that Dobbs was kicked out of Rhode Island, mortuary, autopsy, coroner's office for what was it? Oh, what did he say? Unusual practices with the dead bodies. I've made that bit up. I've forgotten what they say, but it's unsavoury anyway. Unauthorised dealings with dead bodies, whatever the hell it is, and he gets fucking axed and booted out. And that was in 1969, and he joins this township, Potter's Bluff, and becomes their mortician in 1970-71. So he's been there for like 10 years. The film came out in 91, so it's 10 years. So, and they all love it. Oh, Dobbs, William Dobbs. Oh, he's great, eccentric, but lovely. But can this be our Dobbs? She's saying. So it's like, oh, and by the way, the film's come back from the chemist, whatever, the film developer's shop. Like, I've got shades of Jaws 2 there, when the diver's camera gets retrieved by Hendrix and all that, and like Brody gets the film retrieved, and I was like, look, that's a shark. That's his mouth. That's his eye. Look, that's a shark. You see that? See that there? Seaweed, mud. It's a shark. I know what it looks like. I've seen it up close, and believe me, I'm not going through that hell again. Shades of that again. Small coastal town, and people closing ranks, and photographs revealing stuff. So he gets his little canister of film. All right, thanks. He did give it in, and he said to the guy, like, look, no one picks this film up except for me. Nobody. This is the film that is wiped. The project for the kids. Project for the kids. Okay. So he goes back home again, like, and Janet, she's not there. Janet. No. Right. Okay. Well, I've got this film. I'm gonna have a fucking butchers at this, aren't I? You've actually seen him do that as well. Old Super 8. He's like, having a look. And you do see him kind of, James Francis just goes like, and thinks, but the old biddy saying like, oh no, William Dobbs got kicked out of Rhode Island, blah blah blah, and he kind of gets distracted. But he has seen something, so he goes back home and he opens the under the stairs closet, and it picks up their cine projector. You see in the background one of the cameras with all the flash bulbs on it, which has been used in all the murders. Ask your wife. You ask your wife. And he plays this thing, and it's Super 8 grainy snuff footage of people creeping up on some coastal house, and they loom up at the window, and they film through the window, and you see in black and white grainy footage Melody Anderson obviously writhing in bed with someone, and he's watching this, and he's like, and then a knife comes up and stabs the man in the back repeatedly, and all these people at the window like laughing and pointing. Again, Herschel Gordon Lewis, 2000 Maniacs. And the way this film is structured, with they all gather around and film and laugh and point, and like they're all smiling, they're all giddily gleeful at murder. All this going on, and he's like, oh my god, Jared, no, what the hell? And like it could be the reveal that it's actually hair that's done it. And you see Dobbs, the camera picks up, and there's Dobbs with his big Coke bottle glasses on, like smiling his way. And it's a great edit because you suddenly get Tarantino legs it into Dobbs' morticians, fucking kicks the door down. Dobbs! He's got his gun on. Dobbs! What the hell have you done? What the hell have you done? And all this. Like, should say as well, they dig up the body of the photographer, the flambéed photographer, who should have been buried, right? You dig him up. Now, you've heard about the thing in the classroom to control them, you have to take the heart away and hide the heart somewhere. Then you got control over them, which is teasing all the kids. And Tarantino remembers this, so he speaks to the gravedigger, played by, I've got his name here, Michael Pataki. Michael is in many movies, but he plays the guy that trains Dolph Lundgren in Rocky IV. He's oh god, Ivan Drago's coach in it, but he's in his stage and TV and many movies, but he's in this and he's like, I don't know what his name is in it, but let's call him Mike. I need to dig up the grave. And he's like, what? I bury him, I don't dig him up. No, you need to dig up the grave now. I'm not authorised to do that. So I'll have to ask Dobbs. No, you don't have to ask Dobbs. My authorisation, my jurisdiction, dig the fucking grave up. And I think this is a bit of a naff moment, because Pataki picks up a pickaxe and begins to chisel away at it's a fucking grave. You're going to have to use a shovel, a bloody big one, to fucking shovel it up. You haven't got a proper digger. You have to shovel it up. You don't use a pickaxe. It's not hard fucking, it's full of earth and concrete. You don't have to pickaxe it all, do you? Anyway, that's what he does. But in the meantime, James Tarantino has gone into Dobbs's mortuary to find him. Dobbs, where are you, Dobbs? Can't find him. Walks back out again and then speaks to Michael Pataki. And in a great shot, one of the mortuary, they got the wall of the caskets going in, the drawers of dead bodies, and Tarantino walks out, and this drawer goes, comes out, and the sheet goes back, and it's Dobbs. He's been asleep. Just gets up and he's like, and just watches. And you're like, so now oh fuck, this guy's not fucking normal, is he? So they open up the casket, and this is a great moment. I hated the pickaxe being used for digging up the grave. I thought that was just, you don't do that. But it comes in handy now. He's like, I'm going to open this box now. He said, I don't want to see no dead body. He said, come on. The weight of that, there's no dead body in there. It's the whole point, isn't it? So Tarantino picks up that pickaxe with the shovel end on it. It's hardly a fucking shovel. And he goes, fuck off, wedges it in, breaks half the lid off, and then hits it again, fucking pulls the lid off. But that's him doing it, and he does it in one fell swoop, well, two fell swoops. And what's inside there? Well, no dead body, but there's something swathed in there. You know what it is, of course you do. We all know what it is by this stage, but you're like, oh god, no, can't be, can it? And even Tarantino's kind of like, shit, I think I know what that is. It's all falling into place. It's wrapped up in like a shared heart. Dobbs, But then of course he watches the video, the cine film, the Super 8. So we're back to Dobbs. What did you do? And this scene is magnificent. The cine projectors are everywhere in this room, and they're showing all the murders in black and white all the way around Dobbs's main mortuary office. They're all there, so you see people getting their throats cut. You see the rock going on the girl's face. You see the fisherman getting sliced up. You see poor what's his name, Freddy, the gas man, who is on fire, falling off the pyre and writhing on the deck in flames. So you see all these murders taking place, and you see Melody Anderson, Janet, stabbing whoever in the back. It's like, what did you do? They're dead. It's like, yes, I told you. And Dobbs confesses, look, this is my art. This is what I do. I don't want my art to be forgotten about. I make souvenirs. I bring them back to life. Call it black magic. Call it, what's he say? I've got it. Call it black magic. Call it a medical breakthrough. I'll take my secret to the grave. It's like, you're insane. You're mad. And then, well, Daniel, look. And what's Janet got to do with it? He's already approached Dobbs about Janet and her obsession with voodoo and black magic. And Dobbs, earlier on, playing mind games, said like, Yes, Daniel, she comes to see me all the time. What? She comes to see you all the time? Yes, didn't you know? No. And you can tell her from me, I find her obsession with voodoo and black magic a little bit upsetting, and it's nothing to do with my art. Lying bastard, you know. Again, fueling our boys, like, fucking what the hell is going on? But he says, like, look, I brought them all back to life. Freddy, the hitchhiker, the fisherman, everyone, they're all dead. I've brought them all back to life. And I've given them the memories that they need. No, you're insane. This can't be true. You can't be doing this. But I am. And you need any further proof? Look behind you. And Janet turns up, Melody Anderson, and she's all sweetness and demure. Dan, you know, let's go back. I'll cook tea. I'll make whatever you want. What do you want for tea? I'll cook it. Don't worry about it. No. And I'm like, yes, Dan, she was the first. When I found her, she was drowned in a car in the creek. And even though she was disfigured and bloated, it couldn't mask her beauty. I brought her back to life. And I gave it to you, Dan. I gave it to you. And look, you know, I gave her the memory that she wants. She alone can have sex and lust and desire and dreams and ambition. I gave that to her, and I gave her to you. You're saying she's dead. Like, Dan, let's just go back and have a meal. It's like, no, he's losing it now. It's like, what the no. Bang! And he shoots her. Squib's going off. Bang, bang, bang. If you look, a squib goes off very badly, and a piece of it flies past Melody Anderson's face, and she goes, "Wow!" The way she reacts to it is very real. It's like, you're like, oh shit. It just adds to it. Apparently on the day itself, it deafened it in one ear for pretty much the rest of that day. But she carried on regardless. And then, but she doesn't die. She's standing there, and he's going like, "No, Janet, no!" And she's like, "Oh, Dan, I'm dead. Dan." And she's realising, and it's genuinely horrible. It's really horribly eerie. Dan, I'm dead. Bury me. Please bury me. And of course, they're in a graveyard. So she turns and goes, and he's like, "Dobbs, you fucking nutter, what the fuck?" And he turns around, Dobbs is right behind it, he turns around, blam, 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 and fucking blows Dobbs away. Bullets go through, and they shatter a projector screen behind him as well. But there's many more projector screens, which is important. You know why. And Dobbs hits the deck, you know. And the thing is, Dobbs has said to him, like, look, you can't kill me. You can only make me dead. Which is a great line. You can't kill me, Dan. You can only make me dead. And he can bring the dead back to life. Right, okay, we'll get on to all this. So, Valentino runs out like, Janet! And he's running through the graveyard. It's night time now. And then he hears her, Dan. And she's in the grave which they dug up of the guy, which she said was a photographer for the school. Oh, I should have said, that was all a fucking big fat lie as well. Because the head teacher of the school, Valentino, said like, oh, don't worry, I know who that guy was now, because Janet said he was supplying camera equipment and photography skills to the school. And the head teacher's going like, what? Another one of the weird accents. No one was supplying photography equipment to the school. And he was all, are you sure? Maybe it's a transaction you didn't know about. I know everything that happens at that school. So again, his suspicions are raised about his own wife. Again, because of all that. That was earlier on. Doesn't matter now. But she's put herself in that open grave now. And she's scratched out like the guy's name, George Lemoy or something, who they found out his name. And she's put scratched Janet into the wooden cross. And it's horrible. And she's like, Dan, bury me. And Melody Anderson did not like this scene. As you wouldn't, she's lying in a fucking grave, an open grave, and she's covering herself with earth. And of course, everyone's above her. That's no matter what you're making a movie, that's going to be a terrifying predicament to be in. So she's covering herself over, and he begins to scrape earth as well across, and he's distraught. His mind's blown by all this, like. And then he cut to like he's buried her, and it's just like that. And suddenly a hand comes down. Oh, Dan, I'm so sorry. She's at peace now. At least she's at rest. And one by one, every single one of the villagers that we've met, the townsfolk, every single one of them is there, and they're putting wreaths and flowers down there. Dan, I'm so sorry. But their faces are all ripped and peeling back. 'Cause they're all dead. They're all zombies. All done by Dobbs. Dobbs and his occult practices. I'll take my secret to the grave. And they're all there, and he's like, I can't believe it. And then suddenly they bring up cameras and take pictures of him. And he realizes, no, they're gonna kill me violently, because Dobbs wants people have to die violently. In the witchcraft tomes and voodooism, which his wife Jad's been reading, they've got to be killed violently to bring them back to life. That has to be done as part of the thing. So Dobbs has his zombies kill people violently so that he can then work his magic upon them. And he likes them to be disfigured and wrecked so he can use his powers, his artistry as a mortician to bring them back to beauty again. And then, but that's not enough to put them in a box and seal them away. I want to give them back the life they had, or at least a facsimile of it. And that's what he's doing. So all these people have died time and time again, and he's brought them back time and time again. He's playing games. He's the Lord of Potter's Bluff, and it's just, he's a puppeteer. He's pulling all the strings, and it's like The Prisoner, I suppose. He's making stories for all these different characters to reenact. And this happens to be Sheriff Dan's story. So he's going to be going for this murder mystery sort of thing. And it's all part of Dobbs's grand scheme. But anyway, so he's about to die. He thinks he's about to die. And he fucking, like, no, he fights, not me. Runs back into the mortuary. Don't forget, he shot Dobbs through the guts a couple of times. And Dobbs, in a different scene, has woken up, staggered off, put the embalming stuff in himself. Not sure why. If he's got the skills to do it, does he need to embalm himself? I don't know. Been around a few dead bodies, but I don't know the full mechanics of all this stuff. And I don't know the occult that well. Although I've been around people who do know this stuff. Hey, I've been everywhere, folks. And he's put the lipstick on himself as well. All this, and rouged his cheeks, done all this. So, but when the sheriff comes back, he's there, he's immaculate back in his suit, glasses on, he's alive. You can't kill me, Dan. You can only make me dead. And that's what I wanted. Now, I won't be sick, I won't be ill, I won't have all the things that life throws at you, because now I'm dead, and I can keep on bringing myself back and all that, and I can control everybody. That's what he's basically saying. And it's brilliant, And he's like, no, there's one more thing you haven't seen. There's one more part of the story to show you, Dan. Look. And of course, there's all these screens playing all the flickering projector movies, and the body that's being stabbed by his wife, the body turns over, and it's Dan. Of course, it's James Valentino. And he's like, no! So in other words, he's already died, but he's around, so Dobbs has brought him back to life. So he's a zombie himself. And you hear this, and he goes, looks at his hands, and his hands are all decomposing and shriveling. And he goes, and you hear Dobbs just say, let me look at those for you, Dan. And he just goes, and the film ends. It's fucking genius. Dead and Buried is a wonderful, wonderful movie. It plays like a Twilight Zone story with extra gnarly bits. It is Invasion of Body Snatchers. It is Jaws, grisly, small town horror. It is The Car with James Brolin, another film I love, about a small town sheriff with mysterious deaths and what the hell is going on around here? I love it to bits. The fog, obviously. The birds, obviously. Oh, these coastal towns, rural weirdness. Elements of Psycho in there as well. But Halloween 3 is the one. Halloween 3. And Halloween 3, of course, has Silver Shamrock Novelties, run by Conal Cochran, Dan O'Herlihy as a warlock, who's nicked the main monolith from Stonehenge and got it back, and they're chipping away. His robot assassins that kill anyone that susses out what's going on. His robot assassins are like the townsfolk, killing people all around the place. A doctor who susses onto something gets horribly murdered in Halloween 3. You have it in the Dead Right, although that scene shouldn't exist, if you know what I mean. But it's there, and they clearly saw that. And they're chipping away at this monolith, and the little bits are going in the microchips in the back of the mask to turn kids' heads into spiders and snakes. But Colonel Cochran says this thing, to Dr. another Dan, Tom Atkins as Dr. Dan Chalice, Dirty Dr. Dan, are here with the 80s, pinching nurses' arses and shagging it all over the place. Like, it's great. Bedside manner. Oh, be Dan. Oh, get up there. Do you want to see a big hypodermic? Well, have you tried this? I'll inject this into you. He's a right fucking monster, but he's great. And but Dan O'Herlihy is Colonel Cochran, who owns the town, of Santa Mira. He owns the town, like Dobbs owns Potter's Bluff, and all the people there are his minions. He's controlling everything they do. Colonel Cochran controls everybody in that town as well. It's very similar. And he says to Dan, about this main monolith, which is all over the TV show. It's gone missing from Stonehenge. How could it go missing? That's in the UK. That's 230 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. And then it went 2,500 miles across the fucking, oceans to America, to California, Santa Mira, And he says, like, we had a time getting it here. You wouldn't believe how we did it. I've always said that is a remarkably brilliant line. You haven't got to explain anymore. You're thinking, oh, how the hell did he do that? You wouldn't believe how he did it. And the smug look on his face, you don't need to know, but you believe that they did it, and you go, oh wow, that's clever. And in this, Dobbs saying, like, call it black magic, call it a medical breakthrough, I'll take my secret to the grave. It works just as well. And I think Halloween 3, which I love, you guys know how much I love that film, I've discussed it many times, that has taken a huge influence from this, without a doubt. Only a couple of years later, 81, this 83, Halloween 3. And the similarities, the army of robot assassins are like zombies. The rural town taken over by a warlock, someone with black arts and the occult powers, like Dobbs. It's all there, and the secrets, which you're never going to find out. It's genuinely wonderful. Joe Renzetti's score, you've been hearing it right now, is fabulous. He did the score for The Exterminator. He worked for Gary Sherman a few times. Vice Squad, Wanted Dead or Alive. He would also do the Child's Play movies. I think he did Poltergeist 3, which Gary Sherman did. Poltergeist 3, isn't the greatest. Poltergeist 1 and 2 are wonderful. Poltergeist 3 isn't, but it's not Gary Sherman's fault. The little girl died. Carol Ann, Heather O'Rourke died whilst making that movie, and they had to film around that, and he didn't want to do it, and he couldn't understand why. The tragedy, and he said the film is not the film I wanted to make. It's tarnished forever, and you've got to understand that. But Renzetti's score, it brings in the big band stuff for Dobbs, but plays these little off-kilter moments. So he's got the orchestra playing the big band stuff, and then doing these little moments, just unnerve you. The camera work by Steve Poster. They remove walls, so the camera follows people up and down steps and goes through walls in one-take shots. Melody Anderson comes up the stairs, the front steps to their house, which is actually filmed in LA, in glorious sunlight, but using the cheesecloth and all that, like an horrible gauze, to make it murky and desaturate it and shadow things. And the camera is in front of her, and she walks up the steps carrying groceries, and the camera comes through the front door as she comes through it, and then shuts the door behind her. How did the camera get through? How did it do that? And then as she walks through and goes into the living room, the camera goes through the wall, and there's James Valentino sitting there, and they have a big conversation, and the camera, it's all one take. It's genius. A lot of takes where James Valentino is sitting in the gas station and in his car. The camera is watching from the coastal road this other vehicle come pulling up, and yeah, just 5 minutes. I'm being ushered. This other vehicle comes. It's the headmaster, the principal of the school, and it's where James Valentino says like, "Oh, I've heard about the photographer. He's bringing gear to your school." And no one was bringing photography gear to our school. I would know about it. I'm the principal and all this. Like, his accent's changed a few times since I've been quoting him. But the camera, you think the camera's on the road outside watching this, and the camera pulls back through and comes back through the bloody windscreen of James Valentino's car. His rig, his rusted, horrible police jeep, comes back with the windscreen of that, and then pans around to show Valentino's face as this guy pulls up, and they have their conversation. It's like, how the hell did you do that? It's brilliant stuff. And Gary Sherman said, everything we did, and he's only young at the time. I know we'd done a film, not quite 10 years before, maybe 6-7 years before with Deathline, but his experience and is just, let's just do this, let's try this. I want to keep everything off kilter, so watching the film is unnerving for the audience, visually, orally, everything about it is going to be just disquieting and unsettling. So every camera move is just, you might not be aware of it, you'd be thinking, how did they, and then a conversation takes place, and you forget about it, but the increasing effect is just to unhinge you just a little bit more, and it's brilliant. The film plays, as I say, like a Twilight Zone extended episode, but with extra grisly elements. And the gore, it's not massively gory, it isn't, but it is horribly violent and unpleasant. The opening sequence with Freddy, George as he's called, as the photographer, oh my god, that Lisa Blount gets her boobies out and you think, oh, this is all lovely. And Renzetti's score, once the camera pans up from her painted toes and her tight jeans and all that, like the saxophone comes on and it's like, that wasn't very saxophonish, was it? But it's all very sultry and like demure, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then it goes fucking intensely violent, albeit very quickly, but oh my god, is it his name Chris Allport? I keep forgetting this guy, Chris Allport, yeah. He gets fucking hit over the head with a shovel. They break one of his legs as well, like, and they're beating him up. And it's just, and the mob around him all laughing and all pointing and smiling and taking pictures. It's grotesque. And then he gets held against his pole, tied up with a fishing net, and his face is all contorted. It's like, and it's so, you're like, oh my god, we've gone from what could have been a bit of TNA to what the hell? And you're like, it's genuinely horrible. I don't think the violence in the movie, once you've seen that, nothing is more graphic and as extreme as that sequence. And of course, the big hypo in the eye into his brain as well. I mean, obviously but that's a shock moment, very super quick. Halloween 2, of course, did the same thing, but you see an injection into the side of, oh god, her name's Janet as well. The nurse is called Janet, another Janet. She gets the hypo, Michael Myers puts it there, move the hair out of the way, there. But you also, Dr. Michner or something like, they turn him around in his chair, he turns around, he's got a hypo right in his fucking eyeball. So Halloween 2 kind of went a bit further with it. But it's nasty enough in Dead and Buried. Filmed in reverse, obviously, but very effective. But nothing beats that first sequence. I will say the attack on the family always has a really nasty sort of feel to it, because there's a kid there, it's a mum and dad and a kid, and they're going for it, and they've got cleavers and hooks and fucking all sorts of stuff, like you bastards. And again, it's similar to The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog. See, John Carpenter again, John Carpenter, The Fog, Dead and Buried, very similar in feel, aesthetic and style. And Dead and Buried and Halloween 3, another, okay, John Carpenter didn't direct it, but it's Tommy Lee Wallace, but it's a John Carpenter movie, we all know that. So they're very connected. Dead and Buried sits in the middle of The Fog and Halloween 2 and Halloween 3, and works as its own machine of occult zombie voodooism, because it is voodoo, because the whole thing about real life zombies, the practice of voodoo, or the zombie practice of voodoo, is to drug someone, put them into a grave, they go into a coma, they dig them up again, and they're in such a mental paralysis that they will take persuasion. They'll follow commands and orders and work free of charge. You know, and it's been going on for centuries. Like, you know, it's been well documented. So, and that's what Dobbs is doing. He's telling stories. He's just presiding over Potter's Bluff. They don't really make too much more of it, but your own imagination fills it in. He says what he's doing. You know, I give them enough memory to make them move and have their lives, but I give some more to some others. So you can imagine that he's telling little stories, little Midsummer Murder stories. That's what Dan's story is. That's the story of this movie. That just happens to be Dan's story. And Dan is, I'll fix those for you, Dan. So he's going to bring Dan back, and Dan will have a different, Dan will have a story next time. Next time it'll be, I don't know, Mitch from the diner. It'll be her story. But he's puppeteering everybody. And he's just sitting back, and now because he was old, but now he can't die, because he's already dead. You can't kill me, Dan. You can only make me dead. And now I'll never be ill again. Jack Albertson died very shortly after making this movie. They were doing ADR, additional dialogue recording, and they'd just done it, completed it, and then Gary Sherman and Jack Albertson and Jack Albertson's wife went out for a meal and had a great time. But he said, like, Jack was not well. He was on heavy medication at the time, and he'd been struggling to make the movie, but his commitment's there. He's having a whale of a time making the movie, but he said, like, we all knew he wasn't well, but you know, he soldiered on. Went for a meal with him, and 2 days afterwards I heard from Variety that the great character actor Jack Albertson had died. And he's like, oh shit, and he died that night after the meal. So Jack Albertson never saw the finished movie. Or he would have done. If he's doing ADR, he probably would have seen the scenes as well. Like, but it's a terrible shame. Apparently, James Valentino, in a sequence where Dobbs is saying to him, like, you know, this is a bit embarrassing for me, Dan. I've lost a body. What, you mean a body got up and walked away? Well, or someone saw it. I imagine my reputation now. He means Lisa Marie's body. If everyone found out that a mortician lost a body, I got a business. That sequence, apparently, it took a while to film it. You know, filming Valentino, filming Jack Albertson, and during the takes when Valentino was talking, Albertson kept falling asleep, and he kept on doing this, and Valentino ran out in tears, and he went to his trailer, and he went, what the hell's wrong with it? He's fine. What's up? Gary Sherman thought that, oh, it's because you think he's bored with your line delivery, and he's, you know, you're not doing your job correctly. He said, it's not that at all. He said, my dad died like this. I was having a conversation with him, and he kept on falling asleep, and then finally he didn't wake up. And he said, it took me back to seeing my father die, and he said, I couldn't go through with it. And then, of course, but Jack Albertson did survive to finish the movie, but died right afterwards. Ah, dear. And, you know, fate, weird. He's playing a guy that dies, but you know, You can't kill me. You can only make me dead. And he's bringing other people back to life, and then he goes and dies. But, you know, it's what it is. It's what life and death is all about. Dead and buried. Melody Anderson is the girl that comes out the shadows and brings Lisa Marie's hitchhiker back to life. Again, that's a scene that shouldn't be in there. It doesn't make any sense. When you watch it, it makes you think that Dobbs hasn't done anything wrong. He's just he's reconstructed her body, her face, and then left the room, and then someone else is in charge. I mean, it's not. But in a way, if you want to think about it, Janet is the one who's fascinated by the occult and witchcraft and voodoo. But it's Dobbs who's put that into it. He's given her all the memories that she has, and then given her to Dan. But she's the first, as he always says, she's the first and she's the best. No one else comes close to her. She's the most active and spiritual and whatever. So maybe he has made her like his lieutenant. So he does his bit, and like he's taught her how to do the last bit of the spell to give her something to do. I don't know. It wasn't meant to be in there, but you can make of it what you will. Folks, I've prattled on long enough here. Everybody in the mansion is starving and they're waiting on me. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this discourse, this rambling discourse on a cameo video nasty. It made the list, albeit briefly. It should never have been there. Honest to God. It's nasty elements, but it's not a video nasty. It's a great high production value movie. Great performances, dripping in redolent atmosphere. It feels clammy, it feels cold, it feels wet. The way they filmed it, Steve Poster's lighting and cinematography is exemplary. Renzetti's score is fabulous. Sherman's direction is superlative. Performances are terrific. Oh, one question. We know that one kid has been brought back to life, the little scrote with his toy airplane. But what about the other kids in the classroom? What about all the kids? There's quite a few kids in that school, but are they from different towns perhaps? Maybe. I don't know. What does it matter? Dead and Buried. You can get it in 4K, you can get it in Blu-ray. It's majestic. Loads of features, behind the scenes stuff, making of, lots of commentary tracks, all very edifying, and a wonderful movie all around. One of my favourites of that era, without a doubt. And it fits into the Body Snatchers, Halloween 3, The Fog, Grizzly, The Car, Jaws even. Small town sheriff has got all shit going on. And Valentino does it really well. Like, what the? Bodies turning up, they're on fire, stabbed in the eye, bodies going missing from the morgue. What the hell is going on? My wife's reading occult and voodoo. It's got a fucking dagger in the He finds the dagger that killed him. Should have said that, shouldn't I? He finds the book on voodoo and witchcraft and the fucking dagger. It's insane. Dobbs. Let me fix those for you. Folks, happy know shall be Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, in this ever, will you just shut up and go to the chippy and buy a big Chinese banquet for the rest of us, Kilt-Man? In between time, please keep it Kilted, and I'm going to see you all in a mortuary near you later. Dead and Buried. Fully recommend it. 2 decomposing thumbs right up your jacuzzi.